Hey friends, this is the Mrs. Wolfie from our Half Acre Homestead. Well, today I am cleaning out my squash from the garden and I'm going to bake it and dehydrate it. And this is how I'm going to do it. Here I have 3 Hubbard squash and 1 buttercup squash. And what I've done is I've hollowed them out nice and clean and I've put them on a cookie sheet cut side down. Now folks, don't be tempted to cut your big ones in quarters, because what will happen is you will have an open side to the oven and it will dry out. So we're going to put this in a slow oven of about 275 degrees and we're just going to bake, and I'm going to go ahead and start cutting up the rest. Now as you can see, my first tray is out of the oven and it's cooked. You can tell because you can just slightly indent the squash, and it's bleeding hot too. So now what we're going to do is we're going to very carefully lift these off, and we're just going to start to scoop the meat from the squash. Alright, we'll be back when all my squashes are scraped. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to put it in the mixer because it's really heavy. It's almost dry. So we're going to moisten it up. And for that, now I know it seems odd to add water when we're going to dehydrate, but we want it a smooth type puree. So let's just mix it up with some water. I'm going to continue to add water and whip this until it's the consistency I want, and then we'll be back. Okay folks, the rule of thumb is going to be, if your pumpkin or squash does not look nice and spreadable like this, then don't be afraid. Take your squash, add some hot water, puree it, and spread it out. I'm going to say no more than a 1/4 inch thick. Now I've got 5 trays. We're going to dehydrate these and I'll be back when they're dehydrated. Alrighty? Okay, we're back. I'm going to go out on a limb before I even grind this and tell you that when your squash is baked, folks, before you dehydrate it, make sure it is an even consistency by pureeing it first. Let's have a look. All right, let's have a look. Now there still is some bits. If at this point it's not going to grind, I'm not going to force it. I'm going to put the kettle on, and when I get this all ground up, we'll try it out. Okay? In these bowls, this one I have the bigger pieces that wouldn't grind, and I have sifted them. When I ground it, I sifted them into this bottle so that the powdery stuff, the powdery pumpkin or squash, has gone through, and this is the harder stuff that didn't want to grind. And here I have a 1/4 cup of the larger bits and a 1/4 cup of the powdery. Now this, so I'm wondering if this harder stuff will rehydrate, and I think a cup of water might be too much. So I'm going to add just a half a, ow, that's really hot. A half a cup of boiling water to my powdered pumpkin. And it rehydrates a whole lot quicker. You know what? I am going to give it the whole cup. And I'm just going to stir this water in. Obviously the powder is working much, much better. We'll be back in about 15 minutes to see if this coarser ground stuff is worth saving. The finer stuff is rehydrating really, really nicely. Okay folks, here's the scoop. The coarser ground stuff that didn't want to grind did reconstitute or is reconstituting, but it may need some cooking. So I'm going to say this coarser stuff, if you get it, put it in a separate jar and save it for soups. But if you don't want to have that problem, you want to take your cooked squash and puree it with hot water so that you get, and spread it. Okay. If you don't want to have this problem, cook your squash, puree it with hot water, and spread it very, very thin on your fruit leather trays. This is a live and learn for me, but look at this. This turned out perfect. This is enough squash or pumpkin for easily one pie. In this jar, I have 4 cups of powdered squash. Add a 1/4 cup of powder to 1 cup of boiling water, you get enough for a pie. So this, my friends, is, in this 1 liter jar, is 16 pumpkin pies. Isn't that amazing? The coarser stuff, we'll save for soup. This is the Mrs. Wolfie from Our Half Acre Homestead saying, if you're going to can some, dehydrate some too. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Take care.